name's Tammy Leatherman. I'm an emotional support teacher here at Ore Valley and Dallastown Area School District. I have K through 3rd. I have a regular ed certification for K through 3rd and a special education cert for K through 12. I worked for 10 years as a director of a preschool and preschool teacher. Then I worked for the IU for 13 years, and this is my 14th year as an ES teacher. I have a master's in leadership and education. I have an AA and bachelor's in early childhood education. I have a special ed certification. You have your same concept of management in your classroom. You're wanting students to be kind and following directions, certain expectations for in the regular ed setting. So in our classroom management, we're always reinforcing those typical appropriate classroom education settings, things. But my philosophy for my kiddos are, I want them to understand a connection between their choices and outcomes. So it's very important for us to have them understand that we are not taking things from them, or we're not keeping them from doing things. We give the kids the consequences, and then they have to understand, if I do these things, this is going to happen, if-then situations. I think it's my biggest philosophy would be the classroom management is to as well as keep the classroom environment, a learning environment, safe environment for everyone, but at the same time teaching them about the connection between their choices and outcomes. So we have a level system, so it's we use planets and stars. So planets of red, yellow, green, and their stars. It's very fluid, so they know that I made a mistake, this is when I need to get back on track, and I can get back. So if a student knows in this setting they don't think they can get back, you've lost them for the rest of the day. So they need to know that they can earn their way back. We have our classroom routine, so they know to come in and all. And we also have what's called Martian money. It's the token economy and level system for both of our classroom management. So when they come in the morning, we set up a routine like early on. For the new ones coming in, the other kids are great role models because they know you come in, you hand in your folder, you unpack your stuff, you pick your lunch, kind of thing. But in developing it, you kind of also have to figure out what's the best, kind of the behaviors. You also have to decide like what the level system's going to be. Our kids hitting and throwing stuff is non-negotiable, so that's automatically red. The yellow might be like a yellow in a regular classroom. If you refuse to do your work, you might be on yellow. Us, it's repeated amount of times that you refuse to do your work, so it's got to be it's tweaked a little bit so that we're giving them opportunities to kind of self-correct. I think of one because he's a student that came to me actually at Lions Pride, who was extremely violent, very aggressive, very just angry, very angry. First day I met him, he tried to attack me, and so it got to the point where I realized he needed to trust us. Everywhere he was, he would act up. They would just send him along. So I wanted basically to let him know we weren't going to give up on him. We weren't sending him out. So I I did do a couple of restraints in the beginning. We're CPI trained, crisis prevention intervention trained for do with restraints. So this kiddo right off the bat, is doing restraints. But as time went on, just kind of reassuring him and saying, hey, you're safe here, you're okay. If there's something that's bothering you, want to talk. And I found that as time went on, when he would come in there, he might be angry. I'm like, okay, I see that you're upset. How about we just kind of sit and talk? I might get out Play-Doh. And it's, even though I have an education position, a lot of my kids just kind of need the support emotionally, obviously. This particular student, we just had to just sit with him and give him the opportunity to talk and validating how he was feeling, even if I thought it might be like the most ridiculous thing. And so as time went by, the behaviors decreased. He would come in and he'd say, hey, I'm upset about this happened in the morning, or I'm upset about this. Then we would talk about it, trying to give him a lot of strategies. You know, hey, when you're upset, instead of doing punching people, he liked to draw. So we said, here's a journal. When you're upset, whatever you're upset about, it's your journal, you draw. So he trying to provide the replacement behaviors, and pretty quickly the aggressive behaviors decreased, and he was using a lot of coping strategies. So I guess the biggest thing is building that trust, validating how kids are feeling, and kind of just have to meet them where they're at and validate them, and then let them be heard. I think the biggest thing is kids want to be heard. Don't take things personally. So if a child comes in and they just scream and yell at you, and you know, it's like, realize that that's a symptom of something that's going on, and not to, you're just the person they feel safe to let it all out, and just kind of just learn to let it roll off.
Yeah.
I learned early on, and I have a son who, he's 23 now, and he was ADHD. He was like my on-the-job training, and I learned about this thing called ODD training, oppositional defiant training. The kid starts having an issue, you just say, this is what you need to do, this is what's expected of you, and you walk away. You totally disengage from the kiddo. You don't sit there and talk to them. You don't argue, because that's what they're looking for. And then you say, okay, if you're not going to do your work, that's fine. You can do it at recess. Putting it back on them that it's still going to get done if you're choosing to postpone it. And it works. I mean, it's like, and you're not upset. You don't get, you know, you don't get involved in their stuff. You kind of just walk away. Sometimes they'll follow you and want to engage, and it's like, I'm not, you know, talk to you right now. This is what's expected of you. And then a couple times you have to reinforce it, you know, then it kind of sets in. So I think for me, you know, I thought as a parent I would use it, but it works everywhere. Just that's one of the things that surprises me is some of the costume management. It was like, oh, you know, in the beginning I'd be like, okay, what's wrong? Let's talk about it. Now it's like, nope, this is what's expected of you. It's not okay. What you're doing, whatever it might be, and then to disengage. And one thing, you can't make kids do anything. You know, so it's like, it's up to you if you want to do that work or not. Totally up to you. So I'm walk away. You want to do it, fine. If you don't, this is what's going to happen. So you have to think of your age group and cognitive level of your students. It's got to be obtainable. You know, you can be like, okay, everybody has to have 100%. Not that that's an irrational thing, but it has to be obtainable. It has to be easily understood. So, you know, hands and feet to self. That's pretty much, you know, it's not a lot of words. And also kind of, if you have the ability and you have kids that can do it, have the kids make up rules. You have a lesson where you can say, okay, what do you think we should do? And I try to have the rules set where it's a good citizen thing. I mean, it's something that's used throughout the school. You keep your hands and feet to yourself. You raise your hand, you follow directions, that kind of thing. And then connecting the consequences with it, and it's making it very clear. Sometimes I think we get caught up in a lot of the what if. Well, if they do this, we need to have this situation. Well, what if they do this? I think sometimes with every kid it's different. If I tell one kid they're not going to be able to have recess because they didn't do their homework, that might be the only time that kid ever, like, that's it. That he only needs one time, and then these other ones, they don't want to go outside, so they don't do their homework. So then you have to realize, like, oh, this child is actually playing the system. So you kind of have to switch it up a little bit and say, well, you're going outside for recess, but when you come in, you know, you have to kind of know your kids too. But I think it's it really helps. You got to have costume management, and then procedures that the kids are used to, and then also know your kids for understanding if anybody has transition issues built into your costume management, transition, you know, that kind of stuff. I think the biggest thing is, don't be afraid to change it if it's not working. So if you're seeing that your kids don't understand, or they don't understand your level system, or it's too confusing, you know, I know some costumes, there's so many different like colors of the color thing, and you know, it moves up and down, but some of the kids have no idea, like, what, they don't understand what it means. So just making sure they understand it. That is a huge thing for me. I really, I've been on the other side as a parent of a child with an IEP. So when I'm in meetings with parents, I feel like I don't ever want them to feel like I'm up here and they're down here. I feel like we're a team, so we need to always present as a team. So when I'm trying to do IEP meetings with parents, I want to make sure like I'm explaining what the acronyms mean, because when we talk amongst ourselves as colleagues, we're like throwing all these terminology around and everything, and I think sometimes I'm very cognizant of parents like looking like, what are they talking about and all. And so if we're having those conversations, just as I'll stop and I'll explain to a parent, like, this is what this means. I often want to say to the parents, be supportive of them, listen to what they have to say. I think I drive some of my administrators nuts because I just let the parents talk. Sometimes it's important to, I never want to judge. There's might be some things where I was like, I see something and a parent might say, I don't know where they're getting it from, and it might be, kind of obvious where it came from. I don't want to ever, kind of put that out there, but just hear what the parent is. Ask the parents what their concerns are. Always have a line of communication with the parents, with boundaries. No cell phone numbers, but just, they can contact me, email, whatever. But I think the big thing is asking parents, like, what they think. What would they like to see? What do they use at home that works? And then try to find something that consistently at home and can be done here at school. I've come into this position here at Ore Valley with one particular family who was very, very concerned, very much an involved family, to the point where they wanted to call me all the time throughout the day, how's my child? So just supporting them and letting them know that their anxiety was just, they were worried about their child, and all day long they would kind of sit and think. So for me, it was like, I'm going to send you an email, follow through with what you say. It got to be at the point where I was hardly hearing from them. I'd write on the little sheet every day that goes home. But it's just validating how they're feeling, creating a partnership, letting them know that you're not this above them, and and I always tell the kids they're the most valuable player on their team, that we can give them all the tools, but it is totally up to them to be successful if they're going to follow them. Mm-hmm. So the other thing is I can't stress this enough, and it makes me kind of frustrated. Families, I don't know if they are they're worried about putting their business out there or whatever, but there are some times where there's a significant event that's happened in that child's life at home, a death of a family member, death of a pet, parents divorcing, whatever, and they don't tell us. And so we see the behaviors kind of escalate, and we're like, what's going on? And then I think for our biggest thing is, I will adjust my how I address things with kiddos. If I know the parents are splitting up, dad moved out, I'm going to approach that child's behavior in a totally different way if I'm thinking they're just trying to avoid doing their work. So I try really hard to tell the parents, it's not that I want to pry in your business, but whatever situation, even if you think it might be insignificant, whatever situation happened at home, change of meds, anything, just please let me know, because then, it's going to impact your kiddos' classroom, whatever. And then sometimes it's a matter of just being able to help the child through whatever it is. So I think the biggest thing is with families is they have to know that they're valued, I think more than what they might have gotten in the past. I don't know. And that their kiddo's a great person and awesome, and we're with them in it together. But at the same time, also trying to encourage them to let us help them, let us give them services, hooking them up with a lot of resources, but that they don't have to do it alone, but it has to be a partnership. Because if we're having consequences at school, and when they come home they don't respect what the child should be doing at home, and then rewarding the kiddo even though in school they punch somebody, but that's okay, we're still going to go to McDonald's and you can get mm-hmm. So, but I think it makes your job as a teacher, your job's already hard enough, but if you don't have your parents supportive of you and helping with the student, you're not going to be successful at all. So,
okay,
yeah.
Well, thank you.